Okay, fantastic. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our masterclass today, which is the second masterclass in a series of three that we're running around cybersecurity, compliance, and AI. As always, on behalf of Nostra, I'd like to start by thanking everybody for joining us again today. Over this series of masterclasses, we're going to look at advancements in technology and how they can really help us, but also how they have to be used in a responsible way. We're taking a deep dive into the world of AI, and we're looking at how AI is behind a lot of cyber attacks, but also how it's being used to prevent attacks. Nostra's position and advice to our clients has always been to have a multi-layered approach to cybersecurity, and that's never been more important than right now. We're going to look at the fundamentals of a good security posture, which are critical in the battle against cyber attack. The risks are evolving, but the good news is that the technologies, the policies, and the frameworks to help keep us safe are also evolving. Today, we're going to look at the areas of resilience, AI, and governance, and we have a top panel of experts speaking. So today, we have our Chief Technology Officer, Gary Melvin, we have our Head of Compliance, Jason Burns, and we have our Principal Solutions Architect, Senan Finucane. Our advice is to please listen to what the experts are saying and look at the recommendations that they're making. The recommendations are there to protect you. As always, these sessions are best when interactive. So any questions you have, there's a Q&A function there. Please post questions and we will handle them on your behalf. There will also be a couple of questions posed during the session, so please be ready for that. And we will leave time at the end of the session specifically to deal with Q&A. We will be recording these sessions and we'll send on the recordings and slides to attendees after each session. So now I'd like to welcome you again, and I'd like to hand over to our CTO, Gary Melvin, who's going to kick us off today.
Thank you, Gary. I hope everybody can hear me okay. So as Gary said, welcome to the second in our series of webinars, and we're going to talk about a very topical piece today, which is around IT resilience. So IT resilience is, as the term would suggest, is building resilience into our critical services. And the reason we do that is because we want to make sure everything that's from a business point of view that we see as critical to the business is kept running, and that we have a plan to keep it running. So in 2025 as we stand, resilience isn't a response plan, it's a performance metric. So, and this is something that we're seeing now going to board level. It's a lot of discussion. So, and a lot of people on the call would be familiar with operations resilience. They're familiar with regulatory requirements around resilience. So, and this is driven by the requirement for most organizations are moving away from 9 to 5. Some of their functions will be operating 24/7. There's also a rising cost in terms of downtime. So if we are a 24/7, 365 operating environment, the cost in terms of downtime, and figure we have in there here is 1.2 million, which is coming from probably larger organizations in the States. But one of the things to take away is the cost of downtime is increasing. The expectation of downtime for customers and for everybody that we serve is less and less. So we need to make sure our planning around resilience is taking into account what our customers expect, what we expect in the business itself, and we're going to cover some of that today. So for the most part, resilience is a conversation at senior management level and also at board level KPI. And there's a lot of work going into resilience planning and in terms of business continuity, disaster recovery, and resilience. So it's a topic that we're delighted to have. We're not going to cover all aspects of it today, but we will start hopefully putting pieces together. So we have a question to kick you off on, and that is, where would you place your organization in terms of resilience planning today? And the options we have is really reactive, partially reactive, predictive, or dynamic. And we want to move away from being reactive all the way through to being predictive and dynamic. And that is the shift that we're looking to move by being more structured in our approach and more defined in our approach. So just going to answer that there now, and we'll come back to that question in a few minutes. Um, so just moving ahead, we're just going to say something about the IT role. An IT role of 5 years ago has completely changed based on requirements in terms of cyber, disaster recovery, response times. So the expectation is we're a lot more available than we would have been. And a lot of discussions we're having at the moment is what should our metrics be in terms of disaster recovery, business continuity, and how do we map things out to achieve those metrics. So when we talk about resilience in particular, we're talking about critical services. And we're going to cover how we define those critical services in a moment. But each organization should know what critical services are inside in the organization, and then we have to map out each critical service. So any critical service or function is a component of multiple services or multiple components. So in order to define the recovery point, recovery time, and the maximum tolerable downtime for each critical service, we have to know what the subcomponents are. And the way we do this is through a business impact analysis. So essentially, that collects the information from the business, and then it assigns a priority to each of the services in the business. And typically, we just start working on what is critical to the business, and we do a lot of work based on what's critical. So if we assign a priority to each service or each critical function, then we typically take those critical ones. And a critical one, for the most part, what we would have seen in the past was 24 hours to recover a critical service. The pressure is coming, and that is being pushed and squeezed pretty much all the time. But it's up to each business to define what is critical for that business, and then what is my metrics around that. We have a big part to play then in terms of asset management, because if we have a critical service, the subcomponents of that service are typically managed through asset management. So we're going to cover that as well. And then we also want to know what our recovery point is, how quick to recover a critical service. So that needs to align with our disaster recovery. So in order to get our heads around and get process around resilience, we're looking at quite a few things. We're looking at defining critical services. We're looking at um, making sure that each of those priorities are aligned with the business requirements. And then everything that's involved in that critical service, we want to make sure it's managed, because any single point of failure that provides the critical service can take that service offline. And that is a key component. So essentially, how do we define the critical service? And the easiest way to define a critical service is to ask the business. We have templates in Austria for doing this, so we can assist in it. But the easiest way to ask, and when we talk about critical services, and from an IT perspective and from a business perspective, we need to look at ask the business what's critical, and that maps all the way through to disaster recovery testing. So we want the business to tell us what we want to do from a continuity and disaster recovery testing point. So there's no point in an IT department testing what they think is critical if the business hasn't actually gone through a business impact analysis and said this is what is critical to each department. And that, in order to go from reactive all the way to um, dynamic, we need to do that on a cyclical basis, because departments change, requirements change. So we need to do that. So ask each department head through a business impact analysis questionnaire, and then add that to a worksheet. So, and map each one to a business continuity exercise. Bring it also into the asset register, and then have it as part of your testing on a yearly basis. There's some terms that we need to know in terms of this. So when we ask in terms of business impact analysis questionnaire, we're going to ask each department head what is critical, what are the critical service, and we just need to know the high level service. And then we will ask what are the subcomponents. Then they may not know all of those, and we can work through those with them. So what's the maximum acceptable downtime for that service? Whoever is pulling this together might take, some people will say 5 minutes, other people will say 24 hours, but we need to have somebody in the business bring that together and actually pull together what is the maximum acceptable downtime for that service. What is the recovery time objective? If we were to lose that service, how long would it take us to recover it? And what's the recovery point? And the recovery point has a big impact on our backup and high availability processes we implement. So if we want a recovery point of a couple of minutes, so we don't want our data to be older than a couple of minutes, then our backups need to align with that, or our continuity exercises need to align with that. So that will determine quite a lot. And the tighter that timeline is, typically, it costs a little bit more. But each business needs to define what is critical to the business, what is our maximum acceptable downtime for that critical component, then the recovery time if something was to happen, and more importantly, the recovery point. So when was my last backup? How old is the data? So if it takes me an hour to as a recovery time, is that from last night's backup, or is it for um, a backup an hour ago? And that's a massive impact on the business, and that will determine your backup policy and everything else as well. So these are key metrics to get around. We have a process diagram that kind of steps through finding out what is per department, what is critical, and then we work through what is the subcomponents. And those subcomponents is called service mapping. So we take a critical service, we break that down into its subcomponents, and that comes together. And these subcomponents can be anything. So depending on the business, definitely it can be staff, it can be a building or facilities or a large piece of machinery. So we have customers that are dependent on people. We have customers that are dependent on a particular staff. Some organizations that can work from home and they can take their laptop with them and get access to cloud, but others need to have a building because there's a specific element serviced out of that building. We need to have desktops, PCs. We need to have specialized applications sometimes. So there's quite a lot. When we break out a critical service, we need to break it out into all the subcomponents of that critical service. So if we have to do a recovery point, recovery time, and we need to map that out. So if I take a quick example of that, we might take as an example such as payroll. There's different elements. So every organization is a little bit different. Payroll can be in the cloud. We need internal staff. We need an endpoint with payroll installed. We need the cloud service for payroll if it's in the cloud. Not only do we need a laptop or desktop, but we need some of the networking components to make that work. So that's switching, a network service, it can be a firewall. We need our internet connection. Not all internet connections are the same either. And then we need a cloud service provider, which is a third party due diligence piece as well. And we might need authentication. So every critical service needs to be broken down into all the components to deliver that service. If we have a critical service, it may not be payroll because payroll is typically weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. But if we have another critical service and there's an issue with a switch and that takes down a full critical service for the duration of the replacement of that switch, then that's not something that we want. And then we've got on-premise, which is completely different. So we're looking at internal staff. We're looking at an endpoint. The network services in terms of switching network access is there. We may not need internet, but we may be getting into a list of internal IT infrastructure pieces then, like a virtualization host to run a virtual server that is a payroll software on it. We might need an Active Directory server to authenticate the user. So these are some technical stuff, but every critical service in the business needs to be broken out to the sum of its components, and our recovery objectives needs to be mapped against those. And that is not a small exercise, but the way we do it is typically involve the business, ask the questions, then break them out, and then we start looking at what is critical. So if we have an internet service that is critical for the payroll piece or anything else, then what is the SLA and the recovery and the redundancy in that? And we start making each of these components resilient at that point. So if I have my critical service, what is the resilience built into the subcomponents of that critical service? So an internet connection, we might make that resilient by having two in place, failover firewalls. MPLS is connectivity between sites. If we need to keep a critical service running across multiple sites, we may have an SLA in that, we may have failover in that, we may have data centers. So breaking these down and making sure that our SLAs and an example is internet connection, we can have a standard SLA, I think is 8 days on that. So if that is completely critical for the provision of critical services, then we may look to revise that and look at doing that differently. So when we start defining recovery points and recovery times for critical services, we need to map out the subcomponents and make sure the SLAs all line up and have all that broken out. And this is a project that needs to be done and that needs to be redone based on changes in the environment as well. But it should all come together.
Gareth, sorry, just going to stop you there for a very brief second. We have a question in there from Stephen. Do we have a business impact analysis template that we can share with people?
We do indeed. So we have two things. We have the business impact analysis structure and how we do it. We have a questionnaire that we can send to department heads, and then we have an Excel workbook to bring it all together. So I might work with you, Gary, after this, putting a pack together. And if
Yeah.
anybody wants that, if they email into Gary, we can provide that and also give you assistance working through it. That's no issue at all.
Thanks, Gary. I'll share my email address for people at the end. And as Gary says, reach out to me personally and we'll help you out there.
Perfect. IT asset management, and I've only one or two slides left before I hand you over, but IT asset management is a big piece. So if we have critical services and critical functions in an organization, and as I mentioned, if there is subcomponents of those critical services, then now in our asset register, we're going to be marking those based on a risk-based analysis of those assets. So if we have a switch or a firewall, but that's in the path of a critical service, then that asset now becomes critical. So then we treat that asset a little bit differently. So we keep it in warranty, we keep it up to date, we make sure we have an SLA. So we actually start bringing everything from our BIA, we've collected what's critical, we've broken it down to subcomponents, we have an IT asset management policy, we have a register, and now we actually mark and sign in that IT asset register what is critical. So our IT asset register now has a lot more useful information in it because it has the component. And I have seen in the past where a €100 component has taken out a critical service for multiple hours. So what we want to make sure is that the IT asset register, if it's something is critical, that we're actually giving that the diligence it needs as well, and making sure we have plans around that. And the plan around that maybe for some of those components is holding one spare or making sure we have a quick turnaround in terms of support on that as well. So defining critical assets is the BIA establishes the criteria, works with stakeholders in the business. This is what's coming into the asset register. So these are common criteria. We include the operational impact, financial impact, compliance, regulatory impact, and security impact in terms of elements inside in the asset register. So this is some of the new fields that are going into the asset register. So it's not the asset register is moving along. So a criticality rating, high, medium, or low, whether it's and there's different ways of doing this, and we have some samples of this as well. So the more we can put into the asset register and manage our assets based on criticality, based on it being part of a service path for a critical service, the better we can do this. So in summary, critical services, know what you need to protect and recover. Every business is different. It's key to ask the business what they, from an IT and from an operational point of view, we need to involve the business, because when we come to disaster recovery testing, we should only be testing what's in the BIA questionnaires, what is being defined as critical. If something pops up, which it does all the time, and we've sat in it and said, okay, I need X, but it wasn't in the BIA, you haven't told us about it, now we add it in. But for the most part, if we're covering everything that has been given to us in the business impact analysis questionnaires and has been revised by the business, and we have a recovery point and recovery time against it, then we're working through really good metrics. Implementing resilience through the path of each critical service, that is key. Critical service, once you break them out, you will have third-party suppliers, you will have cloud, you'll have networking components. There's quite a bit in there. I've covered the point already, just involve the business, map it into continuity recovery testing, update your assets based on criticality, align backup and disaster recovery objectives based on what the business is telling us in terms of recovery point, recovery time, maximum downtime for each service. So it's important that we take those, because those are being pushed pretty much all the time, and then have it all aligned. And it is the alignment of business impact analysis, SLAs with third parties, asset register, bringing all that together is what a good resilience plan and program looks like at the moment. So based on that, and I've gone a little bit over time, I'm going to hand you over to my colleague, Senna.
Thanks,
Thanks very
Gary.
much for that, Gary. Morning, everyone. My name is Senan Finucane. I'm Principal Solutions Architect here at Nostra, and I'm going to talk to you about AI and automation in modern IT and resilience, but give you an MSP's perspective. So basically, our business is all about transforming managed services for efficiency, reliability, and growth. So with that, what are the challenges for an MSP today? So the challenges really for an MSP today are increasing complexity of IT environments. So that really boils down to hybrid working. So obviously since COVID, everybody kind of works from anywhere, from home, from their, I suppose they're even on holiday, they could be working from the office, out on the road. Then you have the complexity of SaaS applications. How do I secure them? How do I provide reliable connectivity to them? And then the biggie is compliance. In 2025, compliance is starting to play a much bigger role in everybody's organization. So that's a difficult one to balance with the other two. Coupling that, then you have the rising client expectations for 24/7 support. So a lot of companies have global operations now and need 24/7 attention. Slow response impacts productivity. So if you can't get a response till in business hours, that's going to have a negative impact on revenue and trust. So AI and automation can bridge those gaps, delivering fast responses and 24/7 coverage by using the likes of automated agents and bots that can proactively self-heal and self-respond in the background on your behalf. And obviously Nostra, as a, I suppose, more modern forward-learning MSP, has deployed these on your behalf in the background to deliver these services. We also then have the growing cyber threats and downtime risks. So in the current threat landscape, ransomware, phishing, and malware attacks are becoming more advanced. MSPs have to protect multiple clients simultaneously, which amplifies exposure and risk. So that's a very difficult challenge that we have to, I suppose, overcome. Even short outages can cause financial loss, reputational damage, and operational disruption as well. So it's all about keeping things moving and keeping things running and keeping things secure as well. MSPs are constantly under pressure to maintain uptime and ensure business continuity at all times. So that's our key goal, I guess, for all of our clients, is just to keep your business running and to absolutely minimize, if not eliminate, downtime. Pressure to deliver cost-effective, scalable solutions. That's a tricky one because every business has just a finite amount of resources to spend on IT. So we have to try balance quality support with cost constraints to deliver, I suppose, the best possible outcomes for our clients. And that's a constant challenge for MSPs. So we have to manage hybrid cloud, SaaS, legacy system requirements, and all of that takes skilled staff and advanced tools, which costs money. So it's all about trying to deliver a quality solution with the budget at hand as well. Manual processes don't scale efficiently either for an MSP. So I guess increasing overheads massively and impeding growth. So we have to try automate as much of that as possible, leveraging AI and automation as well. Next, we have what AI and automation bring. So I guess AI, firstly, intelligent decision-making and predictive analytics is what it brings from a start. So AI analyzes data to spot patterns and prioritize critical issues. Predictive analytics lets MSPs anticipate failures, capacity needs, and threats, which again eliminates that downtime for you, the client. Automation executes fixes and workflows instantly, reducing human error. So a lot of that is like self-healing. If a Nostra engineer isn't available at 2 a.m. in the morning and a ransomware happens, our ransomware is intelligent enough to know that something is happening outside normal parameters, and it will react accordingly, most likely isolating that particular endpoint or service, so that we can then immediately start working on that once we're alerted to it. Next, we have automation, so repeatable processes without human intervention. So automation handles routine tasks like patching, backups, and updates, which are crucial for all MSPs to provide a quality service to their clients. Without patching, obviously, we're increasing the attack vector. Without backups, we've no way of recovering from any sort of catastrophic failure. And without updating, again, operating systems and I suppose, operating system environments, we have no way then of patching any known vulnerabilities as well. So all of that takes a considerable amount of effort and reduces, I guess, response time. So it also frees staff up to work on higher value strategic work, especially if we don't have to do the manual. Again, it frees us up to work on that all important impact, I suppose, producing strategic work. It also ensures consistent, scalable, and reliable IT operations. Together, I guess, we get faster problem resolution, proactive maintenance, and improved service quality. So it's crucial that you get the balance correct between AI and automation. And again, just to create the distinction, AI is like obviously the intelligence, as the acronym suggests, but the automation is the key piece that saves the time. So that's really, really important. Next, we have benefits for MSP. So obviously the most important one and the biggest impact it has on our client is reducing ticket resolution times. That has a huge impact on client satisfaction, operational efficiency, cost savings, and proactive reputation. There's an awful lot of MSPs out there that are more reactive than proactive. And we pride ourselves on the fact that we're as proactive as we possibly can be with the tool set that we have at hand. Proactive issue detection and prevention. So we've an awful lot of tools out there, like our remote management system, or RMM tool, that will monitor every endpoint in your portfolio to see what disks are running out of space, what CPU is being oversaturated, if memory is running out of, I suppose, capacity as well. So the RMM tools gives us a fabulous insight into what's actually going on in your endpoints, which directly impacts the end user experience on the computers during their day-to-day work. It also optimizes resource allocation as well. So with better staff utilization, we can get the right people in the right seat where they have the biggest impact. And again, just to harp back to having the most, I suppose, impact, it's all about working on the strategy or the strategic goals of the company as well, where they'll have the biggest impact. Next, we have scalable support without adding headcount. So one of our biggest challenges in Nostra is finding quality talent. So if we can do more with less, that's obviously where we need to get to. And AI and automation has given us that, I suppose, given us the tools to achieve that. Throwing extra bodies at problems isn't necessarily the best way to go about fixing issues, but utilizing the best technology out there from an AI and an automation workplace makes the most sense. So AI and automation allows MSPs to support more endpoints and users without hiring more staff, which is a massive benefit to ourselves. And I'm sure you guys have talent issues as well. Standardized automated processes ensure consistent, reliable support at scale. So as Nostra's grown, that's become key and critical to our whole ethos as a company, is to standardize and automate where possible, so that everybody that comes in knows exactly what's expected of them and knows, I suppose, in a predictable fashion, what the outcome will be from the vast majority of our SOPs. And again, the key to this whole point is to scale without extra headcount to keep our labor costs under control. That's the biggest thing that we need to do. And also that's going to become a reoccurring theme for yourselves as well. And obviously client satisfaction and retention is huge too. It's so difficult to win a client. It's even more difficult to keep them. So we have to keep satisfaction levels up. So quick issue resolution is a big win. Proactive maintenance improves the client experience as well, so that you don't suffer any downtime. Clients feel confident that their IT is secure, resilient, and well managed. And then consistent high service quality builds loyalty and long-term partnerships. And that's what we try to do at every step of the way, is to build trust and build a win-win situation for ourselves and our clients. And again, satisfied clients are less likely to move and are more likely to renew contracts and refer others. And that's a key thing for Nostra as well. The vast majority of our business isn't actually through marketing, it's through referrals and word of mouth from existing clients. And for that, we massively thank you as well. Okay, next we have automation in action for MSP. So over the next two slides, I'm going to give you a flavor of how, I guess, MSPs leverage different automations. So we I suppose automation is the big one. We can automate patching and updates for our endpoints. So back in the day, we used to manually have to do this or run Windows updates at a particular schedule, but there was no visibility to see how successful the schedules were. Now with modern tools, we can actually see from one dashboard what the patching levels are per client and an overall aggregated score for all of our clients as well. And also we can see from an update point of view what updates have been pushed to servers, to workstations, to third-party softwares. So it's massive being able to see that, because we can then visualize current attack threat vectors, and we can manage the current threat landscape as well much better, because it enables us to see around corners. Previously, back in the day, we didn't really have a good vision as to what was going on in each endpoint. It was a lot of try and see, and I suppose being more reactive than being proactive. We can also script remediation for common issues. So to give you an example, if a C drive is running out of space on a workstation, we have a particular script that will run automatically that will go hunt the common data hoggers or capacity hoggers and free up that storage for that workstation to run optimally. All of that is done proactively in the background without any interference or need for a Nostra engineer to jump in and kick that off. It happens automatically. Again, routine backups and compliance checks. So we can jump in and check that the backups are done automatically with our AI. They'll also check if compliance is being adhered to as well. And if it's not, it'll report back and log a ticket so that we can then jump in and see what's going on and hopefully fix the situation. And then obviously the all-important scheduling of reporting and monitoring. So every month we can schedule reports that go to our client, like executive summary reports, where it gives them a current state of the nation. And again, that breeds confidence and trust. And it demonstrates value as to what Nostra, I guess, are bringing to the party as well. We're showing that the client is getting what they paid for. In other words, we're doing what we say on the tin as well. Next, we have, I guess, sorry there, one second there, I'm gonna have to jump in. I have lost my, okay. So we have improving resiliency. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry about this. I'm just jumping into where I am. The slides are not matching up.
No problem. Just while you're doing that, Sen, and anybody, just remind anybody who's got questions, please throw them into the Q&A, throw them into the chat, and we'll deal with them on your behalf. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. And now we have a closing call to action. So AI and automation empowers MSPs to deliver faster, smarter, and more resilient IT support, but it's not limited to MSPs. I guess that's the message that we want to get across. So what can I do? Start small, automate strategically, and scale confidently. That's what we've done. We've tried to introduce AI and automation at every step. And I guess for you being the clients, the vast majority of you guys are on the Microsoft platform or the Microsoft ecosystem with 365. So the next logical step for you guys is, I guess, to deploy 365 Copilot and start to integrate it into the company as much as possible. So if you're open to that and to start it, reach out to your Nostra account manager to kickstart your journey to becoming, I guess, a next generation company powered by AI and automation. And that's it for me. I'll pass you over to Jason.
Thank you very much, Senan. Thank you for that. So what I'll look at here now is how we can use IT governance to help drive our competitive advantage in whatever sector we happen to be in. So governance is quite an over, is a term that gives an impression of oversight or management. So how can that be used to give a competitive advantage to any of our clients or ourselves? So when we put in place a governance, it's generally around a standard or something similar. That means we become certified or audited. And once we become certified and audited, it gives us management systems that are fit for purpose. It gives an assurance to our customers that that's the case. It means our IT data protection systems are maintained and will grow with the organization. And it will also give assurance that resilience and risk is reviewed, tested, and updated as part of that. All of this builds towards giving trust from either prospective customers or existing customers that safeguards are in place for their businesses where they would rely on us or on you. And then ultimately, having those certifications or audit results makes it easier for new business wins and retentions against competitors that don't have the same level of governance on their IT systems. So what does that look like in practice? So my apologies now, my own screen has just gone a little bit mad, so it's now back on track. So looking at the GDPR, PwC in 2023 said that 87% of consumers would abandon brands that mishandle their personal information. So when we look to put in place governance, we look to make sure that all actions that should take place appropriately and in a timely fashion. So under GDPR, you must make sure you know where your data is. You must make sure you know what type of data you have. You must make sure you have the appropriate protections in place. So what governance looks to do in that scenario, it looks to make sure that you have all the correct processes in place to protect that. Using Microsoft as an example, they invested a great deal in their data protection and in their security services. So under GDPR, you must have appropriate technical and operational measures. So what this did was it positioned the company as a leader in data security, which attracted customers who prioritized data protection, ultimately leading to an increased market share. So what does that mean in practice? Well, if you're out with a customer and they are having tenders or something similar, and they get asked the question, where is your data? They say it's inside in Microsoft, and we have this secure score, etc., etc. So I've lost count of the number of customers who, when we are able to answer those questions on behalf of them in the due diligence statements and put in the values that we've put in place for them, that this is one of those key items that means they get that contract, they get that tender. It's because they're demonstrating that they're able to do this, and governance makes sure that those things are happening.
Similarly, sorry, Jason, just to stop you for a very quick second, we are having just a glitch here with the slides. They're not progressing. They just need to be done on a manual basis.
Okay, well, let me just do something there now.
No problem. Apologies, folks online. We'll deal with that right away.
So is that back online there now?
No, it's just need to share it out again there.
Okay.
Thanks, Jason. Actually, Sandy, just for yourself while Jason's doing that, Jessica had a question. Is 365 Copilot included with the Microsoft 365 Business Premium, or is it a separate subscription?
Yeah, it's a separate subscription. So Business Premium you have to buy first of all. So that's the bedrock or the foundational license that every, I suppose, SME in Ireland should be using. But on top of that, then you have to purchase the 365 Copilot license. That's Microsoft's advanced Copilot that works within the whole Microsoft Office ecosystem. So that's Outlook, Word, Teams, PowerPoint, OneDrive, all of that good stuff. But that's €30 roughly per user per month. And then Business Premium is roughly 20 user per user per month. So stacked together, you're looking at about €50 per user per month. But you shouldn't look at it, I guess, from a point of view of cost. It's more time saving. In essence, 365 Copilot license again costs €30 per user per month, but it can save you up to 8 to 16 hours per month in repetitive tasks or content generation or summarizations or sanity checks. It's a fantastic tool. I personally use it, I'm not kidding you, about 50 times a day, every day. I'd say it saves me 2 hours a day, and then I can focus on more strategic work then as well. It's an amazing tool. I know I sound like a bit of a fanboy, but it is. If you work in a 365 environment on SharePoint, OneDrive and Teams and all that, it's an essential tool, I believe. But you do need to invest a bit of time in it as well. It's like learning a new language. It's a bit tricky at the start, getting your pronunciations and all the rest pitch perfect. But once you get into it, a light bulb goes off in your head and you then realize the true value of the license, I guess. Sorry for going off on a bit of a tangent there, but it's definitely worth the money.
No, that's great. Thanks, Sen. And I know we've another couple of questions there, but we will have time for Q&A at the end.
Yeah.
Jason, I think those slides are back online for you there.
Very good. Thank you very much. So yes, holding published standards or independent audits will help differentiate you from your competitors and also position your internal IT for resilience and security. So from PwC, it's considered in both government and business to business almost like a license to operate and a symbol of effective information security management and controls. So what does that mean? Once again, going to the tenders. In a lot of tenders, there can be very simple mechanisms as to whether or not you qualify to move on to the next stage in the tender process. Those of us familiar with e-tenders will know all about that. So even the fact that you're doing all the relevant security items, but don't hold an ISO certification might mean that you don't get that tender. So putting in the governance around your organization and bringing yourselves up to ISO 27001 will help get that business and differentiate you from differentiate from your competitors. Also, it means in certain circumstances, when you are actually out there, you're advertising, you're introducing, and so on and so forth, there are a number of times that you may not get to talk to the person because they don't reach out to you because you are not seen to have the standard or its equivalent such that they can then deal with you, because internally within their businesses, it's not something that they can engage with if you don't hold that tender, if you don't hold that certification or audit results. So each act or regulation from a governance point of view will have a different perspective. What are they attempting to achieve as part of putting that governance in place? So DORA and NIS2, they're driving operational resilience in their particular areas of scope. So DORA is financial sector resilience, and from their perspective, there's a focus on third-party risk and operational resilience, and it comes from the central bank that the oversight comes into place. So in there, your actions that you must make sure are happening are, do we maintain our third-party risk register? If someone is an element of our critical functions or services, from what Gary got from the business impact assessment, do we maintain that? Do we do the third-party testing on them? Do we do our annual due diligence on them? Have we got that metric that shows, yes, we've hit all of the suppliers this year, or are we only seeing 80%? It makes sure that the business is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Looking at NIS2, that's largely geared towards operators of essential or important services. So originally when it came out, think power stations, think water, think national transport systems. I think, will our economy be running in the morning? So DORA is, will our financial institutions be running in the morning? NIS2, will the important or critical elements of our sectors actually be running in the morning? So how can you achieve that? So our friends in the National Cybersecurity Centre in Ireland, in partnership with Belgium and Romania, have developed a thing called CyFun, which stands for Cyber Fundamentals. So this brings in a practical solution to the small to medium enterprises on how to identify the risks, and then can, as a result of that and the actions coming out of it, demonstrate compliance with the directive's broad security measures. Now, there is a hope in the future that that will become a certification, perhaps much like the UK's Cyber Essentials for those of you who operate in a cross-jurisdictional manner at the moment with the UK. Only last week, we've had another request to assist in a company in getting to Cyber Essentials such that they can deal with the UK health authorities. So you don't have it, you can't get that business in place. Governance, one of the key metrics under governance is continuous improvement. And there's an old business adage, if you're standing still, you're going backwards. So these standards, when you look at them, there's a focus on planning for the future. There's a focus on continuous improvement of your systems. And there's a focus on ensuring, look, things happen, but we must ensure we learn from them so that we don't repeat it. So we need to make sure that it's imperative that we're there for the fast-paced business environment that we all exist in. 18 months ago, not many of us had AI on the desktop. The manner in which that is rolling out at the moment, it's really important to get your governance in place around that, because what does governance look like for AI? We must look at the ethics involved with it. We must ensure there's no bias. We must ensure that we're not training the rest of the world on our internal intellectual property, as our friends in Samsung did at one point, or perhaps we're not looking at the results out of our AI to make sure that the AI is giving us accurate results, so-called hallucinations out of it, or that the AI isn't inventing something that might later remove that trust that we had built with the customer. So with continuous improvement, it's very much a top-down cultural thing you need to do, because if you don't have buy-in at the C-suite or board level or senior management level, it can be very difficult to get that in. So what you need to do is you need to look and see, how can this bring benefits to the system? And if it can bring benefits to the system, it'll bring benefits to the company. If it'll bring benefits to the company, it'll improve the company as well. Whether it's efficiencies, driving greater profits, whether it's ensuring we get a better market share, so driving our turnover. All of these are incremental benefits that you mightn't see the moment you put it in, but over time, perhaps over a year, perhaps 6 months, perhaps 3 years, if it's very much a long-term goal to get to a point that you've positioned yourself, you've built the internal standards, and you have everything in place to manage it. So with the continuous improvement, once you have the C-suite level in place, what you want to do is you want to empower the staff to raise the concerns and the opportunities for improvement in it. That way, the staff feel that they're bringing benefit to the company. They feel invested in the company. I've made that change, and brings a positive approach to problem solving. It identifies risks that you may not have been aware of. Asking the difficult question sometimes gives a difficult answer, but if it helps protect the company in the long run, it's a good question to have asked and to have got that answer. Any of these items, they look to streamline operations with the continuous improvement. So that leads to your operational efficiency. And ultimately, if you can demonstrate that you have a solid, repeatable process in place to support your customers, that helps build customer trust. So what does that look like as we work through it? So first of all, we put in place our governance, so that helps to ensure consistency across our offerings. The continuous improvement builds confidence within the system, and that this is a useful process we've put in place. This is a useful oversight. I'm seeing tangible benefits either for the business or for my customers. And when we improve the customers in that success, we want to always monitor it, we want to review it, and we want to optimize it. And that way we continue the customer success and we improve the customer success that we've worked so hard to get to. So as we look to move forward from today, and if we don't have governance in our IT at the moment, what does that look like as to how you can get there? So what you want to do is you want to look at what you currently do relative to a standard or a regulation, a gap analysis, if you will. But you can start small and you can say, do I have my processes in place that look after IT at the moment? Yes, I do. No, I don't. Am I engaged with my MSP? Do I get appropriately quarterly results or similar? What results am I getting from my finance department? What results am I getting from my sales department? Can I look to automate some of that? Can I look to put decisions around that? You need to resource, or you need to invest in expertise. So once we've looked at it and we said, okay, well, look, we can improve here. How do we actually manage to achieve that? Most companies, most people are working very hard already. So what we need to look for is we either need to look for a service that can help us achieve that, or we need to invest in a resource, perhaps train up someone who is well used to our business, knows our business inside out, and then we bring someone in underneath them to replace them in their existing role or to complement their existing role. We want to make sure we're now doing planned actions rather than reactive actions. We don't want to invest in a new antivirus after a malware attack. We prefer we invested in a new endpoint protection before that antivirus or that malware attack came in. If we invest in IT governance, it's investing in the future success and the stability of the organization. So going back to the beginning of this presentation, we spoke about IT resilience. DORA is all about IT resilience. DORA is also all about governance and responsibility and roles and managing those. Governance is now the first level in a protection in these standards. So in the previous NIST standard, NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0 is what those letters stand for at the far end there. It was originally you need to identify what you have and the risks associated with them. You needed to protect them. You needed to detect if something was going wrong. You needed to respond to something going wrong, and then you needed to ensure you could recover from it. But what has now happened is that has been developed. So now governance is in place first. And governance is overarching over all the layers to ensure that everything that should be happening is happening in an appropriate fashion when you're doing it. So what would that look like in your average business? So first of all, we need our role structure. So the role structure is the C-suite or the board or the management must have buy-in in it in order for success. And that's true of any system that's put into any business. That then brings leadership. So the staff, our colleagues, partners, etc., will see, yes, this is a serious company looking at the issues out there in business today. The responsibility, a lot of the items with the modern standards say that the responsibility for the management of this is on the board itself. Some of the newer regulations will assign fines against individual members depending on the standard or act that might be appropriate to your particular vertical. The governance committee will be underneath that in some shape or form. It could be governance committee of 2, it could be a governance committee of 10. And this is strategic. So this looks at the operation of the business. Monthly reports come into it in some shape or form. Decisions are made, KPIs are there. And then we come down to the next level, which is leaders in the business. So they have ownership of responsibility in their areas. They're responsible for, if they see a risk, they bring it to the risk officer or they bring it to the governance committee, or if they must, bring it to the C-suite and say, this is something we really need to look at. We spoke about the monitoring at the governance committee. So what do we look at? We look at our IT management system. We look at our risks and our assets, and we look at the rights that are assigned within our business, and we ensure that our documentation is maintained. An analogy I often use is on a wet Friday evening, will the last poor person left there and a problem appears, can that person access the documentation to resolve that problem quickly and efficiently? Then with the regular monitoring, so the previous one was interval, so that might be at a quarterly or annual basis. We look at open actions. Okay, we need to review, have we resolved this issue we identified already? We look at internal and external issues and we say, are there elements outside of our 4 walls that we should pay homage to now? Do we need to react to something? Do we need to improve? Do we need to close down some particular access or vector that a threat could come in? Have we had security incidents? Are we dealing with them? Are they repeating? Do we need more training? Have we managed our continual improvement? Have we noticed our opportunities for an improvement? And have we actually dealt with them? Are we having an internal audit? Have we had an external audit? Have we them scheduled, and are we making things happen when they should happen? And then do we get feedback from peers or stakeholders? So with NIS and DORA, a very big element of that is making sure that we discuss within our industries and within the wider economy, what are the issues that everybody is dealing with and how are people dealing with, and can we learn from that? And also, can we notify that we see something? And then finally, our most important people in any organization, our customers. Are we listening to our customers? Are we reacting to what the customer needs? Are we proactive in what the customer needs based on what the feedback is there? So thank you all for your time. I'll hand back to Gary there now to finish up the webinar, and if there are any questions we can deal with in the time remaining.
Jason, thanks so much. And also Gary and Senan as well. Really appreciate it. We do have a few questions. And Jason, seeing as you're there, just one in relation to compliance, going back to what, not Senan was talking about from an MSP point of view. Robert has asked, from a compliance point of view, is there a minimum list of standards or qualifications that Nostra require from a third party in order to enable them to access a company's internal server without having to raise a ticket every time they require access?
That is an interesting question. If I could, is that there in the chat, Gary?
It is in the chat, Jason. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll try to start off at a simple level. We're required to have certain levels of security controls amongst our third parties that we use or operate. So we would have an appropriate data protection agreement in our contracts with our suppliers. So perhaps using as an example a security service. So the question there is, are they appropriate? Do they have an appropriate level of security controls in place in their business? So we'll look for ISO audits. We'll look for SOC 2 audits. We'll look for evidence of that. Under DORA, we will look to ensure that they have the right to audit so that we can go in, or if our customer requests it, that our customer can actually audit that information. Relative to being able to operate on a customer's endpoints or similar. If you are looking at one of our SIEM or SOC solutions, one of the elements of that is on a 24/7 basis, we need to be able to react to protect our customers. So we need those systems to be able to say, okay, well, here's something malicious acting on a server. This should be really, this should be locked down or isolated straight away. So if we don't have that option with that service isn't a benefit then in that case. How will we manage that? With our contracts, with looking for the requirements under GDPR, and with looking for the practical elements that we can get from them in terms of the auditing and the certification.
Jason, thanks. And any of our customers online, any more information that you require in relation to that, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to provide that to you. Send a couple of questions in relation to Copilot and thank you. Jessica, I know you've answered it, but you might just go through it again. You answered in the chat. Just following on from the earlier about the Copilot licensing, there is a free version available. Is it safe to use? And then secondly, Susan McConville has asked, can Nostra provide or recommend training for Copilot? So I might leave that with you if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries. Just to follow up on Jessica's question. So just to set a bit of context, the main difference between the chat version of Copilot and the 365 version of Copilot is the 365 version of Copilot has access to the Microsoft Graph. And what that means is the graph is like a repository of data. So it can see, so 365 Copilot can see all of your data in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, OneDrive, whereas the free version of Copilot can't, Copilot Chat. So in order for you to get any, I suppose, analysis or analytics from a file using the free version, you have to upload the file into Copilot Chat and it will perform whatever function you've asked it or prompted it to do. Whereas with 365 Copilot license to €30 one, it has the context of your whole files, all of your messages, all of your calendar invites, all of your different messages within Teams. It has everything, and that's basically called, I suppose the wrap around that is called the Microsoft Graph, and that's the key differentiator. Security-wise, they're built on the same security, so you are safe and secure uploading files into Copilot Chat, but again, it only has the context of that one file from the question that you've asked. But if you ask a question within 365 Copilot, it has the benefit of understanding all of your files. So it'll give you a more comprehensive answer, I guess, if that answers the question. And then to Susan's question, can Nostra provide or recommend training for Copilot? Yeah, we provide full training for Copilot. We take a three-pronged approach to Copilot training. What we try to do is the first prong is an introductory boardroom training where we will go in, usually myself and Jaco, and we will give a very high level fundamental intro to Copilot, what it is, where it came from, how it can benefit you. Then the second tranche is what we call our second prong is our productivity squad. So we will get our 365 Copilot experts to go desk side with you. So the way it works is you buy a certain amount of time and credit, and then we will go desk side with all of your employees and take them through for maybe 30 minutes or an hour all of the different use cases that are relevant to them. And then obviously we get to realize then the I suppose the time saving element of 365, but we're also educating the end user how to use Copilot within their daily lives, I guess, and their daily tasks and job roles. And then ultimately the third prong is it's a learning tool that sits within, and you pay it per month per user. It's only small money, a few euro, but that sits just like Copilot within all of your applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, and it helps you then. So we don't just leave you high and dry. The virtual teacher is always there to answer a question. And if the virtual teacher doesn't have the ability to answer whatever the complex task you're asking it, you can escalate it back up to us, and one of our experts will then augment their answer as well. So we believe it's a very good approach to establishing a Copilot center of excellence within your business. And again, if you're not, I suppose, introducing AI into your business, it's now late 2025. You really need to be looking at making it, I suppose, top of mind or a top business priority for 2026, because this stuff is coming hard and fast down the tracks. It's no longer fluff. This is real. It's going to have a real impact on business. Just like when social media came out in the late 2000s, no self-respecting business would post up or advertise on Facebook because they thought it was for kids. It was a fad. Now, the likes of Hailey Bieber or any of the celebrities out there, Mr. Beast, they're actually creating businesses off the back of their million followers, and the businesses are turning into billion-dollar businesses. Hailey Bieber there recently sold her beauty business to Elf, I think it's Beauty Corporation, but she was paid 1 billion for her business, so that's not bad from an Instagram following. So I guess I'm trying to equate it. Don't leave it too late to join this whole tidal wave of AI. Really start your journey soon and reach out to Nostra, and we can help you on your journey on the way as well. So
And
thanks for
Senan,
that.
thanks a million, and thank you. And just to remind people, the next masterclass is going to be about AI readiness. That's going to be Wednesday, 10th of December. So we will be jumping in on a much
Cool.
deeper level. Folks, we are over time, but I have another couple of quick questions to go through. If anyone needs to drop off, please do. And the questions will be in we will, as I say, be recording the session. Gary Melvin, firstly to yourself. So you spoke to us about business impact analysis. You know, people have asked us about templates, and to remind people that we will send on templates afterwards. Jessica had asked one, Stephen had asked one. Anyone else who wants one, please reach out to me, gary.byrne@nostra.ie, and we will look after you there. But Gary, how often do you see organizations as having completed a BIA, you know, and then what can Nostra do? Because recognizing that there's gaps there is one thing, but how can we help with operationalizing the gaps, I suppose?
I think if we start by having the conversation, and this today is part of that, but for business continuity, disaster recovery to be successful, we have to involve the business, and that involves the BIA. We're not seeing it this year. We're seeing a lot more of it. Dora, from a financial perspective, is driving. We've had more conversations on BIA in the last 6 months than we probably had in the last 2 years. But if we can get that piece correct and the business tells us what it needs from a business point of view, it's much easier from a technology point of view to put the solutions in place. And then it's a case of pretty much, if we can get the BIA, if the business tells us what it needs, then the technology can be more straightforward if everybody knows what they're working towards. So if we know these are our list of critical services and these are the subcomponents, then all of those are critical, then we can put plans against those. So it becomes easier and it actually maps. So when you're doing a disaster recovery test, you can actually say, well, I'm testing these services because that's what the business has told me we need. And if someone says there's something here we now forgot, then we add it back. So that's why it's important to go back into doing a BIA update then every year. But it is becoming an awful lot more common, Gary, probably not as common as what we need it to be, because sometimes we'll be asked to do a disaster recovery test based on the IT information, but that's probably not good enough anymore. We want the business to give us the information and involve the business in that process. And business continuity, disaster recovery are really big topics, and we need to align the backups, the recovery, the resilience based on critical systems and critical processes in the business.
And I think that's key where, make Nostra part of the conversation is really the message there. You know what I mean? Like, so any questions that you have around governance, any questions that you have around compliance, any questions you have about the security of the ITMS services or Copilot or AI, reach out to your Nostra account manager who's there. And Nostra has a whole lot of, strength and depth to be able to help you, whatever the requirement is. Jason Burns, same question to yourself there. I've just asked Gary, governance or compliance structures and BIAs. How often are we seeing companies implementing these sorts of things, and how can we help operationalizing them? I guess same to yourself. How often do you see a good governance structure in terms of ratio, and what can we do at Nostra to help operationalize these for our customers? You're on mute there, Jason. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Well, yes, so relative to the structures and the business impact assessments, it depends on the risk associated within the organization. So if someone is operating in an environment that not much changes over time, you can look at having the intervals much larger. In organizations that are highly regulated or similar, in terms of disaster recovery and business continuity plan, I would always have it's a monthly review to make sure it's up to date. Now, if you're looking at your business impact, if you're looking at your disaster recovery or your business continuity plan, and you say, we have now changed this fundamental element of our system this month, we did a change control on it, but now we need to update the business impact assessment for that. So you can see that happened at a monthly cadence, but it's not so much that you must do an updated business impact assessment every month. It's a case of you must review your system to see what changes have happened, and does that drive a business impact assessment with it. In terms of governance, then there must be at least an annual governance meeting for most regulations or industries or similar. So in other words, you consider your resources for the year, you consider your planning for the year, you consider the roles and responsibilities for the year, you consider your access rights or similar for the year, you consider, have I done a correct disaster recovery test or business continuity test in the last year? So that's what the cadence or the interval would look like for a number of those in practice.
Fantastic, folks. We're way over time, guys. Thank you so much again. Senna Finucane has just thrown up a comment there. If anyone's interested in a quick intro or demo via Microsoft Teams to 365 Copilot, please reach out to him directly. Senan.finucane@nostra.ie. Again, our next session is going to be Wednesday, 10th of December. Thanks so much for your engagement and for the numbers that are turning up to these sessions. It's really fantastic. Just want to thank everybody again. And listen, enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you all very much. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.